So I debated if I was even going to make a live stream reaction or recap video this month. Not because the live stream wasn't good. I mean, it was decent. It was definitely a strong B. The problem, it was a strong B and it was mostly more of the same. Nothing really concrete. Intrepid not addressing the long-running cosmetic question, which has now been avoided for 26 months. And really, it didn't give the audience a strong sense of confidence. This is why a B is probably fair to rate this live stream, and each month that Intrepid continues to duck and dodge the cosmetic question, I'll just keep asking, how can you continue to sell cosmetic skins in your cash shop that you are either unwilling or unable to answer how they're supposed to be used? This will continue to affect the grade of the live stream until eventually every live stream is just going to be bad until we get that one answer. Now, with that said, I do understand Intrepid likes to take every opportunity to show off their new areas, and the Tower of Carfin is absolutely a great looking area. It gives off that darker vibe, that blood magic vibe, and that is definitely something many MMORPGs miss out on. As we know, the area is going to be great looking. Intrepid is leveraging Unreal Engine 5, one of the most stunning engines out there, and the artists have time and time again proven they know how to leverage this engine and make stuff look good. The reason I wasn't going to do a recap video is mainly because after 6 years, we are still getting too much tell and not enough show when it comes to these videos. Compounded with that statement is that Alpha 2 is stated to be not years away, but it's not right around the corner. But back in October of 2022, on the 13th, Steven did a Ask Me Anything, and he said spot testing was going to include individuals from the community in the next, quote, several months. Even if we give Intrepid the benefit of the doubt on several, and we let them say 8 months, that means those spot tests should have happened no later than June. With a new statement of not years away but not right around the corner, I don't foresee any spot testing this calendar year. What was good about the live stream on Friday is we heard from new people. We got a lot of information about how their story arcs are going to work. We did learn that everything with the stories is handwritten. These are similar to those pre-packaged campaigns you get for your tabletop RPGs. While player actions can and do shape the world, nothing is procedurally generated. Player actions will be able to shape the world through sort of these large-scale world events. When it comes to these world events, you can repeat them in the future if you missed them when they were live. However, your choices won't matter. So they are repeatable for players who missed the initial chance to do them, but, there's no going back, there's no take-backs, there's no redos. I think this is a really smart decision on Intrepid Studios' part, since one major concern for new players in an established MMORPG is they feel, I've already missed too much, or I missed this really cool thing, I don't get to experience this. Final Fantasy XIV has this. Anybody who played in the 1.0 version of the game got to be in the Battle of Cartano. New players, the 25 million players since, did not, and a lot of people wish they could go back and experience that event. For Ashes of Creation, the story arcs can be repeated. Now, they won't always be repeatable on demand. Sometimes you will have to wait for the opportunity to repeat them. The world may have to change and shape itself differently, but you will eventually be able to repeat them, or you can repeat them while they are live. We also found out that when story arcs come online, the world will change. The mobs in the area may change, so those are pretty monumental changes in the world of Vera. As far as the Tower of Carfin, it is the largest dungeon in the Riverlands. This particular dungeon can result in a boss encounter at the top of the tower or in the city around the tower, so this was kind of interesting to learn about, especially since this is an open world dungeon. It will be interesting to see how Intrepid accomplishes open world dungeons, especially since many AAA studios have tried to pull them off and they were unable to get them just right. It's easy to have blind faith in a company. Intrepid did mention the idea of player friction. If they are trying to incorporate player friction, that is a certain level of competition between the players, and they have acknowledged they aren't going to be doing much about that. They're not going to be intervening if one group gets too powerful. Then I definitely see that leaning them over into the more sandboxy versus less sandboxy side of the scale. It's going to be interesting to see how Intrepid starts to balance their sandbox features with a slew of games coming out that are aiming to be more sandboxy in nature, such as ArcAge 2 and PAX Dei. We did find out that some areas in the world only have 2 seasons and some have 4. That is something that you might have missed in the shuffle. I think that answers a lot of questions people had about some of the biomes that in the real world basically only have 2 seasons. We did find out that Vera has 3 moons, 5 phases. Those are just little bits of information people might be looking for. From the live stream, people did say, many of my viewers did say the combat still looks boring. I would agree with that. I don't like the continuous repetitive cycle of the left mouse button hits. I've never agreed with the left mouse button basic attacks. It seems like Intrepid is trying to build a hybrid combat system that isn't truly hybrid. I just hope that in future iterations they are able to bring a better combat experience. With that said, combat wasn't the focus of Friday's test. They had not announced any new iterations on combat. So in fairness to Intrepid, they weren't saying the combat would be better, but they did show off combat, so they have to be ready for people to rate and gauge the combat. The QA this month wasn't amazing. There were a couple of things that bear noting. The biggest is that Intrepid is still leaning in this idea of bringing a very minimal viable product for Alpha 2 and then onboarding ancillary systems as they move forward. They want to get into testing early to get data and then bring other things online, as Alpha 2 is intended to be a long test. Now, Intrepid is going to do what Intrepid is going to do, but if they want to know if this is why this is a bad plan, they need look no further than Fractured Online or even their own history. In their own Alpha 1 testing, they struggled to get the testers online that they needed because, quite frankly, there wasn't much to do in Alpha 1. They ended up reopening Alpha 1 sales in order to get the testers they needed. Fractured Online ended up doing numerous Alpha 1 tests, and each time the population got smaller and smaller because people didn't want to keep doing the same things over and over. Now I know what you're going to say, Jay, there won't be wipes in Alpha 2, and you're correct, there won't be, but there should be. If certain systems are going to be online at launch and they don't come online at Alpha 2's launch, then the data Intrepid gathers is going to be skewed. I'm just going to take freeholds, for example. Say a freehold takes 3,000 gold to get the deed to. If the freeholds are online at the start of Alpha 2, Intrepid will gather data on how long it takes the average player to get a freehold. But how soon the system starts seeing the freeholds placed down is only going to be relevant if every system was online at the same time. If freeholds don't online until the players have accumulated a ton of currency, then the data will not reflect the average player's experience, and the Alpha 2 is the time to get that data. This is just one of a dozen different systems that will be skewed due to everything not onlining at the same time. Apartments, in-node houses, the pace at which caravans get built, the pace at which naval ships get built, the rate at which the castles get taken. Do castles get taken the first time in the first attempt if they're online at level 1, or do castles get taken the first time after they're online later, and what does that data do? Now I know what you're going to say. You're going to say you don't care because you're bored and you just want something to play. So I want to ask you this. Do you want to have something to play in an alpha state that keeps you busy for a few weeks? Or do you want a game to launch that will keep you busy for a few years? Because really, you can't have both. I'm hoping Steven or somebody else at Intrepid has watched this video, and all I can say is you need to answer the cosmetic question. You keep selling a product to people that you will not explain how the product is used. I think this is going to be the millstone around your neck. It has definitely gone on long enough. Please answer the cosmetic question so we can move past it and we can go back to being excited about Ashes of Creation.